Hello and welcome to the Two Man Booth, your weekly scheduled podcast on the crazy world of professional wrestling, with me, Jonathan.
And me, Adam. And we will start this week as we always do with the news, and I think the first thing we need to talk about this week is the fact that Ricochet's kind of announced he's going to be on both shows until after Mania. I don't know how you read it, but the way I read it, it was almost like they're going to work through Mania, still keep working both shows, and then in the Superstar Shake-Up, then they'll be assigned a roster spot. I'm not sure how I feel about this because I think we've talked about it before. I feel like both Ricochet and Aleister Black have got too much going on in the sense that they've got too many feuds going on at once, and it just feels like they're not presenting a coherent product.
Yeah, first off, I agree with you in terms of I very much read it in terms of that they're going to be on both shows until after WrestleMania, and then we know that the Superstar Shake-Up is coming the week after WrestleMania. So I think that makes sense in terms of they'll just be on both shows until the shake-up. The reasoning I've heard is that Vince McMahon said that he basically wants to expose the NXT call-ups as much as possible and get as many people watching them as possible, and that's a good idea.
So put them on Raw.
Yeah, that's very true, because most people watch Raw, because unfortunately people don't watch SmackDown as much as they should. But at the same time, I do understand Vince's point of view, but at the same time, I very much agree in that they're on too much now. Mm-hmm. They're going to get overexposed pretty quickly, and they're burning through feuds quicker than they need to as well.
Oh, without doubt.
There are feuds that they could have years down the line if they move shows, for example.
Just look who they've beat so far. They've beat the Revival. They've beat Rude and Gable. They've beat the Bar. They've beat Rusev and Nakamura. Did they beat Gallows and Anderson as well in that really random once in a lifetime they were on SmackDown thing?
Yes, they were ambushed by Gallows and Anderson in their one appearance for the last year or so, and yeah, I believe they beat them. Yeah.
So we've also got news, and we'll touch about this a bit more in the sort of Raw review. But Kurt Angle obviously announced that he is going to be having his final match for WWE at WrestleMania. And the thing that made me want to put this in the news was the fact that on Twitter, Matt Riddle kind of threw out a challenge, bro
life.
Yeah. That would be a hell of a match. I don't think we're going to get it, but that would be a hell of a match.
No, I don't think we're going to get it either, but it would be great, and it would be really cool for Angle to have one last sort of just ultra-technical match before he retired. I think Angle would be up for it, but at the same time, like, Angle deserves something of massive star caliber, I think. I mean, Angle does need to retire. We've said this before, and that he's no longer the wrestler he was. He did an interview after Raw basically admitting that he knows he's not 2006 Kurt Angle anymore, but that he still wants to be for one night, and he's going to basically train his ass off in order to be 2006 Kurt Angle one last time. WWE did on their website, they did a few sort of suggestions about who it could be, and there was people like Cena and Taker, suggested. And then there was other people like Chad Gable. The main thing is I think Angle deserves someone major. Whether they throw out Taker into that mix, I don't know. I'm not sure that that's the right call, but Angle certainly deserves either sort of a full circle story, something like that, or just someone who was massive in his day as well. That would be a really cool storyline end for him.
I love Angle and Taker, but my God, that match would be rough.
It would, but it'd be nostalgia for life, and as much as that match would be bad, you just know the crowd would go berserk for it, even if it was like 5 minutes long.
So with that, we'll move on to some news from Impact. Gail Kim has announced she is returning to active competition. Pretty sure this will probably just be for the Tessa Blanchard match they've been building up, but they've certainly done more with that angle recently. I believe Gail was suspended on the most recent Impact episode. So really interested to see where they go with that. And this is Gail's chance to really put Tessa over as an absolute superstar, which she absolutely should.
Yeah, this is something that we spoke about on the very first episodes of this podcast, in that we thought that Gail was well on her way back for maybe just one match. Probably not more, but certainly for one match against Tessa Blanchard. I mean, Tessa's by far the best female wrestler, certainly in America, that's not in WWE.
I'd agree with that.
and they're clearly building to some match. I mean, that's probably the biggest female match that Impact certainly has.
Without doubt, I would say.
And they've been building it for a while. It's been a slow build thing, but on Impact earlier this week, sorry, not last week, but earlier this week, Tessa had lost to Jordan Grace in a number one contenders match for Taya's Knockouts title. And she then got angry and basically started beating people up around the ringside area, and Gail was the one to come out and stop her. And from what I can see, I haven't seen all of Impact, but from what I can see, she's basically been suspended because her role is not to get physically involved with the other competitors. Kind of like the same kind of thing that went down with Austin when Austin was the sheriff of Monday Night Raw. I think it's the same kind of thing.
And in other Impact news, Jake and Dave Christ have signed new contracts with the company. So cool for them. I think OVE have been a good sort of part of Impact for a while now. I believe the fit around Callahan pretty well. I've never been overly blown away by the Christ brothers, but I think they serve the purpose.
Yeah, I'm the same as you. They're not someone that I would tune in to watch or anything like that, but they're a more than serviceable part of Impact Wrestling's roster, and they form part of OVE with Callahan, so they add to Callahan's act, who's absolutely fantastic. So I got no complaints, and I think, that solid re-signings, and again, just these re-signings promise much for the future of Impact Wrestling.
And last but not least, unfortunately, some sad news. We're not going to touch on the results from the NXT TV tapings, so don't worry about that. But Chelsea Green did break her wrist at the NXT tapings on Wednesday, and she will be undergoing surgery for that if she has not already.
Yeah, that's a real shame. She's a really talented wrestler, and she's particularly fantastic with the character work as well, so it's certainly a shame. Hopefully she comes back as quick as possible and she can, start and get momentum going in NXT.
And with that, I think we'll move on to Monday Night Raw, and we opened the show with The Shield.
Yes.
They came out to an almighty reaction. And Reigns said if last night was the last night, then he has no regrets, as he got to do what he loves with who he loves. Ambrose has business to take care of, and Reigns kind of teased a singles match here. And then he said that Seth has real business to deal with. And Reigns says Rollins will slay the beast and win the title. And then they sort of said their goodbyes with the old-fashioned sort of Shield fist bump in the centre of the ring. And Rollins stayed in the ring, basically said the Shield burned it down last night. And with that, who came out but Paul Heyman? So they went back and forth, and then Rollins kind of implied that Brock has a problem with smaller guys, which was interesting because it doesn't make any logical sense. Because yes, he's been pushed by smaller guys over the past couple of years, but he's lost to none of them. He's lost to Goldberg, he's lost to Cena, he's lost to, a lot of big guys. He's never lost to a small guy since he came back.
It's like saying the New England Patriots have got a problem with the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah.
Yeah, they pushed them pretty close, but at the end of the day, the New England Patriots defeated them.
But Seth says that those smaller guys, they aren't quite like him, and he's going to bring the title back to Raw. And Paul kind of made the argument that Brock had no time to prepare for those matches, and I kind of get the AJ thing because he won the title off Jinder just before Survivor Series. I kind of get the Balor thing because in storyline it was going to be Braun until he got himself suspended. But Bryan he knew about. Oh no, sorry, Bryan as well.
No, Bryan
beat AJ.
Bryan beat AJ on the week?
Yeah,
was it the week of Survivor Series?
Either the week of or the week before.
Yeah, it was either way. It was no more than a week.
So Paul kind of ran sort of another Brock video package again. Didn't really do anything for me.
It doesn't. They keep trying to do this. I think they're obviously trying to show how awesome Brock is and things like that. Well, I mean, I know they're limited, but you know what would make Brock look really awesome? Having him be there, showing videos of him beating the life out of people does not do half as much as having him being there, beating the life out of people.
So Paul then says that Brock has fantasies about all the sick things he's going to do to Rollins. It was a really weird line. And then who would attack from behind but Brock's old OVW tag team partner, Shelton Benjamin.
Well, who else would you have thought?
I know, this kind of came out of left field, but I did like it.
So did I.
I thought it was good use of Shelton.
It was odd.
Kind of makes sense, though, for Paul to go out and get Shelton to almost recruit him in.
Well, we've talked for years now, really, about how we've been desperate to see him and form a new dangerous alliance. I mean, I wonder if, I mean, we don't know if Brock's staying or not, but I really would like to see him and build up his clientele again.
As long as they're just treated as legit, because if you remember what it was like when Cesaro was with Heyman.
Or Curtis Axel.
Yeah,
Well, they're just
I think one of those had significantly more upside than the other.
Yeah, Curtis Axel was pretty great, man. Yeah, like they just have to be like a legit group, like the Dangerous Alliance were, because they were all great wrestlers too.
So when we came back from break, this match was ongoing, and Paul Heyman was on commentary for this match. I had flashbacks of 2001. God, Heyman's still awesome at commentary.
Heyman's awesome at everything. He really
put
is.
everybody else on that commentary team to shame.
I'm not being funny. I mean,
that's not difficult.
I don't imagine that we would be particularly very good at commentary. I think I could give it a go, but there are people with not that much experience and not that much talent that I genuinely think could give them a run for their money.
So they had a good back and forth match here. Rollins hit a really nice blockbuster at one point and then hit Benjamin with a knee strike. After we came back from the second break, sort of Benjamin had things under control. He sent Rollins to the outside and sort of slammed him into the barricade. Back into the ring, Rollins countered the powerbomb and hit a Rana, and Rollins followed with chops, hit a sling blade, and then a springboard clothesline for 2. Benjamin hit a German, but then Rollins hit a super kick and then the curb stomp for the win, or the stomp, or the blackout, because they changed the name on a seemingly weekly basis.
When did they call it the blackout?
I thought it was this week.
Oh, I didn't catch that then if they did.
Yeah.
I mean, that would actually be a bad name for the move. But
I think it's what it was called in NXT.
It's just the curb stomp. Everyone knows it is the curb stomp. I'm very much nitpicking there. If they call it the blackout, I actually think that's quite a cool name. It sort of harks back to, Tyler Black. But yeah, I mean, this was
a good match.
Pretty good TV match. I mean, Shelton's always been more than decent in the ring. I know you and I slightly differ. Like, I've always quite liked Shelton.
I really, really liked Shelton until he went to Ring of Honor.
Yeah, the Cody Rhodes effect, although Cody until about a year ago.
Well, Cody still, to me, lacks somewhat in the ring. It's his character work that makes Cody so great.
Whereas Shelton's kind of the opposite, really.
Yeah, but when Shelton went to Ring of Honor, I was like, finally, we're going to get a chance to see this guy pushed. And then
I wonder if that's just that he felt like he was on a lower level than he used to be, and lack of motivation and all that. Because I've always found Shelton really, really more like in the ring with really great guys, a really good wrestler. I mean, obviously, his matches against like Shawn, for example. I mean, I think I could have a decent match with Shawn Michaels at that point.
The sweet chin music heard around the world.
Yeah, I think I could have a good match with Shawn at that point.
So next up, we had Finn Balor defending his Intercontinental Championship against Bobby Lashley. This was a nothing match for quite a while. And then when we sort of came back from break, Lashley hit a really nice flatliner. That's the one thing I'll say. He hit a really nice flatliner. And then they sort of fought back and forth. And then Balor was beaten down for a while, and then he fought back, hit a drop kick, hit some strikes, chops, and then a nice sort of standing double stomp. And then Lashley cut him off again, but then Balor sort of cradled him and then fought back again and hit a sling blade and the running drop kick into the corner, shotgun drop kick. And then all of a sudden somebody in a hoodie appears at ringside, and I was like, oh, I wonder who this could be. I was shocked to find out it was Leo Rush.
What? You might be the only guy with actually a motivation to do this.
Yes, and he rang the bell, which Balor being a stupid babyface, he was distracted.
They're all morons.
And then he attacked Leo, but then when he tried to springboard back into the ring, Lashley speared him out of midair in quite a cool finish, but it just felt like...
It came out of nowhere and it was a random finish.
But they used this as a way to say Leo and Lashley are now back together, and Lashley really appreciates Leo's help, and
which made the pay-per-view pointless, though.
In a way, but if this is their way of getting to Mania and having Finn win the IC title one-on-one with Lashley, where he beats Lashley, then I don't hate this.
Yeah, there's been a few suggestions. I mean, I found this decision quite strange. I'll wait and see what happens before I make any serious judgment calls about it, but there have been people strongly suggesting that maybe they've taken the title off Finn because actually they have bigger plans for him at WrestleMania. There's certainly nothing confirmed, and it's just hearsay at this point, but there are people suggesting that maybe there's plans that are bigger, especially considering the fact that on the WrestleMania production posters and things like that, Finn is shown as the Demon, and we haven't seen the Demon for about a year and a half now.
Has it been that long?
I think it's SummerSlam against Corbin.
Was that not 6 months ago?
Or was that Yeah, that was SummerSlam, just gone actually my mistake. I thought it had been longer, I must be honest.
Yeah, well, they've stopped using the demon as much, but it boggles me mind that we now ought to accept that he's going to bring out the demon to fight whoever he's fighting at Mania, but didn't think to bring it out for the Rumble match against Brock.
Yeah, because the demon's undefeated.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think it's lost so much of its luster since NXT, but the demon is still undefeated, and like logically, like, yeah, you're totally right. Like, why? I have always thought that a really good angle would be sort of Balor being like, you know what, I don't need the demon anymore. I'm not going to use it. But they've never explored that, and they've never gone deeper into the intricacies of the demon, apart from when he faced Rollins for the Universal title. It was the only time they sort of dug deeper into what is the demon, what's it all about. Now it's just like, well, Balor wears some paint and enters his dark side, and it's just a bit like...
To me, they need to establish them almost as different identities, because I feel like when Balor is presented as a strong when he's the demon, but weak when he's just Finn Balor, it kind of destroys the mystique a little bit. If you present them as two totally different animals, whereas Finn Balor's the guy to go out there and have great technical matches and win technical matches, but when it's dark and it gets nitty gritty and it's a real blood feud, that's when he needs to bring out his dark side so he can be a bit more evil.
Yeah, like the example is Keiji Muto and the Great Muta. They were presented as two different people, but everyone knew that they were the same person. And Muta would wrestle very differently to Keiji Muto, in that Muta would be a lot more aggressive, a lot more violent. There'd be more blood in Great Muta's matches. And that was seen kind of as like there was a clear difference between the two of them, and they very much need to go down that angle, because that's what the demon's meant to be. I very much think that that's sort of, I was going to call him Devitt there, force of habit. That's Balor's tribute to the Great Muta and Japanese wrestling history.
So next up, we sadly had a repeat of Corbin's awful promo from last year, just after Roman was diagnosed. I really didn't need to relive this, because, I mean, some of the stuff he said in that promo.
The best thing about being tasteless is when you repeatedly are tasteless.
And he basically said he kind of stood by his words, but, Roman's back now, but he thinks there's no way he's 100%. And then he claims to have basically been the guy who took Raw on his shoulders in Reigns' absence, despite the fact that on screen he's being blamed for their terrible product.
I was going to say, yeah, because on screen he's the fall guy for the ratings collapsing. Has nothing whatsoever to do with the WWE creative team or the bad booking or the bad writing or Vince. So yeah, it's all Baron as far as I'm concerned. It's all Baron's fault.
Next up, Ronda came out. And she went very heelish on the crowd, told them to shove their applause. She basically said that they deserve Becky because she's a coward and she's here to embarrass them at Mania, including Charlotte, and that's why she got Charlotte DQ'd last night. She'd be embarrassed to break a sweat and says her opponents are jokes. And then, all of a sudden, a wild Dana appeared.
Yeah, and she was babyface too.
Was she babyface or heel last time?
You know what?
Because I genuinely can't remember.
The last time that I actively remember seeing Dana was in the infamous promo that would be remembered 20 years in 20 years in the future, when Natalia had headphones.
Oh yeah. I was. You can't see my face, but I was so confused for a second there. I was like, "What promo is he talking about?"
Hashtag sarcasm.
Yes. Yeah, did that ever get resolved? Because didn't you say she'd got a match booked between them for next week? I feel like they never had that match.
If it happened, first off, I didn't see it, and secondly, we didn't review it. But if it did happen, and we didn't see it, and we didn't review it, I'm going to review it now, guys. You missed nothing.
Yeah. So she basically says she's sick of Ronda, and she absolutely loves WWE. She fights for her chances, and she doesn't get much given to her, but she wants a chance, and she wants a match. And then Ronda basically beat the ever-loving hell out of her. She sort of tossed her around, hit a Piper's Pit, and then she slapped the ref.
Yeah, one thing I do want to say in mind, I don't know if you saw, but that Piper's Pit was extremely, extremely dangerous. If she hadn't just turned her, like, she'd have broken Dana's neck.
You know what?
Dana landed pretty much on like the back, like the sort of like the crown of your head. If it had been any further, Dana would have broken her neck. It was really dangerous.
This is going to sound really stupid, but it wouldn't shock me if they'd told her to go out and hit a dangerous looking Piper's Pit.
Oh,
because
it almost
to
broke
further
her.
the quote unquote shoot angle. because Ronda's going to shoot at Mania.
The problem was that she started, you know how, like, you sort of fall with the Piper's Pit, you fall as you're flipping them, but she fell and then started flipping it too late, and like, watch the move again in slow motion. She so almost lands her right on the top of her head.
Like I say, what I just said will sound stupid, but don't forget this is the company who said to Brock Lesnar,
Ground stiff him, yeah.
Go legit elbow Randy Orton in the face as hard as you can and make him bleed.
Yeah.
Because we want people to think this is real. It's 2019, people. Let's move on. Next up, Aleister Black and Ricochet versus Bobby Roode and Chad Gable. You know what? If they'd given this more time, it would have probably been really, really good because there's 4 super talented guys in the ring. But what, this go 3.5 minutes, something like that?
Yeah, but like everything with the tag division, if they gave them more time, it'd be great because honestly, that tag division's really good at the moment. They just don't get enough time. They're all great.
With it being so short, they worked what was essentially a 12-minute match condensed into like 3 minutes, where they had a heat segment which lasted for about 2 seconds, and then there was a hot tag, and then there was a heat segment, and back and forth.
Frenetic is the word you're looking for.
Eventually, there was a hot tag to Ricochet. He ran wild, and then got cut off with the sort of blockbuster German suplex combo that Roode and Gable do that I absolutely love. Ricochet hit back and hit a lariat, and then tagged in Black. Benadrylla by Ricochet took out Gable, and then Black Mass finished Roode. It didn't last long, but what it was really good. It's just a shame they're not giving more time.
Do you not feel like Ricochet is by far the standout of the debuts so far from NXT?
I feel like both Ricochet and Black, because I think it amazes me because we've complained pretty much every week now that Black's been humanised too much. Mm-hmm. But every week, apart from this week, interestingly, every time I see them, Black always tends to get the bigger reaction. I think it was different this week. I do think Ricochet got a stronger reaction both at Fastlane and on this show.
That's what I'm thinking.
But every episode prior to this, I felt like it was Black that was getting the big reaction and Ricochet was getting a semi-big reaction.
You're right, but I think Ricochet is very much gaining this momentum. Like, I think there's a possibility that he is the most over guy when we get out of WrestleMania. I think they do have work to do with Black. I like Black, and I think
they just need to do what they did with him in NXT. Just let Hunter book him.
Just book him like Undertaker.
Yeah.
In 1995 and 1996, just book him like that.
So anyway, after the match, the Revival laid out Black and Ricochet, and then we had our favourite segment of the week. Only joking. This is not real. That's not actually our segment of the week. I was being very sarcastic. Moment of Bliss was next.
Hooray!
So she's the host of WrestleMania.
Hooray!
And with that, we move on. Braun Strowman sort of was interviewed about almost murdering one of the Saturday Night Live geeks last week. I don't know which one it was.
He's the baby face, right?
I can't remember. Well, to be fair, did you see those Saturday Night Live guys
last
last
week?
week?
I think isn't this one of the where it's heel versus heel?
At that point, I was all for like, yeah, just let Braun legit murder them. It's fine. And then they got him a car, which Braun destroyed.
Yeah.
This was a segment. Have they just realised that they've botched Braun so much to like... Do you remember when Braun was over?
Just make him a comedy gimmick.
What was happening? Oh, it was when he was destroying people and objects. Let's have him destroy objects.
Yeah, but the problem is that every single time they had Braun destroy an object...
It was for a reason.
It made sense,
yeah.
You know?
Now it's just, I will destroy car. I am monster among men. Get these hands.
My gimmick is that I hate automobiles. It genuinely made no sense. And like the things that they've done with Braun have always been quite goofy and a little bit cartoonish, but they've always made sense. This made no sense, and it's kind of like the thing with Vince. Like when they make no sense and they look a bit stupid,
it's harmful.
They damage Braun. Yeah. Like Braun's been damaged. Like Braun really should be the top guy of the company when you think about it. Like how over he was. If they'd run with him, I think Braun would still be just as over now, in spite of. He certainly,
if not the top guy, he certainly should be a top guy.
Yeah, like one beat to Roman at this point.
Or Seth, whichever direction you decide to go in. Because I understand why they wouldn't get totally behind Strowman, because I think he is limited in certain respects.
Yeah, you can't say go out there and have a 30-minute match, Braun.
But there was certainly something there, and you run with the hot hand.
It had the Goldberg factor in that he was great in short doses.
So Elias was out next. He obviously trashed the crowd, as he does, and the crowd loved him for it, as they do. No Way Jose came out. Random No Way Jose sighting.
Hey, sighting, yeah. He's still there.
Kind of danced his way down to the ring. Elias beat him up. This segment happened.
Let's move on.
And then Harlem Heat their announcement of getting inducted in the Hall of Fame happened.
Yeah, I think we covered this, didn't we? So I don't think we need to go over this. I mean, like, cool for Stevie Ray.
Yeah.
I mean, apparently Dave Meltzer has been fairly critical of Stevie Ray going in, and Stevie has said that he won't discuss what he thinks about Meltzer until after the Hall of Fame. But I think he's got a fair bit to say.
Oh, great! I can't wait for
I
that.
know. I'm waiting with bated breath for that one.
Yeah. Lacey Evans happened, and then we had Nia.
Whoa. Don't just skip over that. Like, give me some detail. What did Lacey do?
She walked out. She turned around. She walked back.
Right, come on. You've got to, this is the most important thing that happens on the show. You need to tell me that in great detail.
I'm very sorry.
Thank you for telling me.
Next up, Nia and Natalya. This lasted literally no time. If this went 10 seconds, that was it. And it ended in a DQ because Tamina and Beth kind of just got involved for reasons, and then Beth cleaned house, and then the Samoan slaughterhouse, or whatever they're terming themselves, they left, and then they got beat up backstage by Banks and Bailey, and I was like, what?
I'm all for seeing them get beaten up, but I'd like to see there be a reason for it.
Yeah, it just felt like this was like a burial of them, though. Like,
Not to be horrible, but Nia deserved to be buried for quite some time because she's immensely dangerous when she wrestles and genuinely harms people. Tamina has no reason to be buried. She's just
I don't know, she can barely move.
Yeah.
But, Next up, we had a really awesome segment, though. Hunter and Batista.
This did help alleviate last week.
Considering how much we sort of ragged on last week, rightfully so, they got a lot right this week.
They did a lot of the classic, cliches.
Yeah.
But did them perfectly.
But cliches are cliches for a reason.
Because they usually work. Yeah. It's like the contract signings.
So Hunter came out and then Batista came out, but Batista put protection between himself and Hunter.
And used the classic line of, "This is not for my protection, this is for your protection from me." I've seen people use that line so many times and it always sounds douchey, but it worked.
So Hunter mocked him for this, and then Batista said he's not stupid. He basically learned from the two dirtiest players in the game, Triple H and Ric Flair. He says that Hunter has always underestimated him and they will do things on his terms. They kind of go back and forth with Triple H refusing to give Batista what he wants without apparently knowing what Batista wanted, and then Batista asking for what he wants and just saying, "Give me what I want." But you know what? It was good. And Triple H called the security guys the guardians of the independent scene, which was probably the only shooty line in here, but it just made me chuckle. And Batista says he kind of quit to get away from Triple H holding him down. Interesting, because I was almost convinced he was going to follow this up with the line of, "And I went on to be bigger than you ever were." But we couldn't have that. We couldn't have Batista saying he was bigger once he left WWE.
Because it's the biggest thing in the universe.
Okie dokie. And
Vince's universe.
Yeah, Vince's universe. So Batista says Triple H wants it bad and wants a match at Mania. Triple H agrees to this, and Batista says he wants to end his career on his terms, but he also wants to end Hunter's career on his terms. Triple H tells him to dig deep and find the animal, because the match will be on his terms. It'll be no rules, no holds barred. Batista was happy and left.
Yeah, and I think this is really good booking, to be honest. I mean, it's going to be a slower paced match. Neither of them are regular wrestlers anymore, so they need a slower stipulation that means that they can slow the match down in certain spots when they need to. And you know what? I'm really looking forward to this match. I don't think it's going to be a classic or anything like that, but I have a feeling it's going to be better than what I'm expecting. I think it could be way better than anyone thinks.
Well, it's probably a better. Is it over? It's over a decade since we've seen this match, which is kind of insane. Because I was about to say it's the better part of a decade, but it's actually over a decade.
Yeah, because towards the latter part of the sort of the noughties, Orton and Hunter became the big Evolution feud. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's probably been that long.
But you know what? Batista Hunter was always great.
Every single time was good.
I think this will be really good as well. So Kurt Angle came out next, and he was wearing his gear. He talked about competing in the Olympics and what he did in WWE. He said Pittsburgh's always been his home, and at Mania he will compete in his farewell match.
Yeah. He got a great reaction, and this was a really sad but emotionally in a good way moment.
Did you feel like this was the promo he was meant to cut a few weeks ago when he came out, and then Seth, I believe that was the episode where Seth wasn't ready?
Yeah, I wonder
to
if
come
they
back,
stalled it.
and they kind of went, oh God, what we're going to do this week, so they kind of inserted them in.
You know what was great about it though? Obviously, it was in his hometown,
Yeah.
so it gave it so much more, gravity and levity that it was actually in his hometown, and it was a great moment as he went round the audience and saw everyone.
It was just a nice feel-good moment.
Whether you like Kurt as a wrestler or his matches, I mean, if you don't, you need to rewatch them. But like, Kurt's just a really nice guy. Whenever we see him interviewed, I mean, neither of us know Kurt on a personal level, but whenever you see him interviewed or anything like that, Kurt just seems like a genuinely great guy who we know has sorted out a lot of personal problems as well. So it's cool to see.
And he wanted his final match tonight in Pittsburgh. And then we had Kurt Angle versus Apollo Crews. This was short. They kind of locked up early on. Crews took control for a little bit, but then Angle fought back and hit all these big spots. The Germans. Crews countered out of an Angle slam and hit a standing moonsault for 2. And then Crews went up, went for a frog splash, and the Angle slam connected, and that was that. It was short. It was fine. You know, Apollo's just a body on the roster, and it's a shame, but he is just a body on the roster. So I'd had no problem with Angle beating him here.
Yeah, this was fine. It really was. I mean, Angle had to beat him because Apollo doesn't really serve any purpose. I mean, we did say when he was brought up from NXT that it was the wrong timing. He had no idea who he was as a person, as a character at that point, and it was the wrong move. And we have been very much proved right over the last couple of years, haven't we?
So Reigns came out next, and then Drew McIntyre attacked him from behind. They sort of brawled around ringside, and then Drew hit him with a Claymore. He then hit another, which sent Reigns into the post, and Drew tells him this is just the beginning, which I assume means we're getting Reigns versus Drew at Mania.
I think so, and I'm glad because the rumours I'd heard was gonna be Roman against
Corbin,
Baron,
yeah.
And like I know we said that Corbin was actually quite good at Fastlane, and he was, but my God, first off, I have no. You're shaking your head very quickly. I have no desire to see that match, and my God, does Roman deserve better at WrestleMania?
So Rollins came out to check on Reigns, and Reigns wanted to stay, and I think he wanted to fight McIntyre, but Rollins, and was it a referee, ended up convincing him to go at the back. Mm-hmm. And then backstage, Ambrose and Rollins were with Reigns talking to the trainer, and Ambrose then went straight to see Triple H and said he wants Drew right now in a no DQ Falls Count Anywhere match.
Babyface of babyfaces. I mean, I really like Ambrose babyface. I know he's been heel most of his career, but he's been so good as a babyface in WWE.
It was a pretty good match, this. I really enjoyed this main event, actually. They really made it feel like a fight. They fought all over the place. It was a typical sloppy, in a good way, Ambrose sort of style match.
They're always like just a pure fight, aren't they, Ambrose matches?
Drew hit a lovely overhead toss at one point, and then he hit Ambrose with the steps. The suplex followed, and then Drew covered for 2, and then they went back into the crowd. Ambrose hit a low blow, showing that even though he's babyface, it's still Dean Ambrose, and he'll do whatever he will to win.
He's still smart.
Drew fought with a chair, and then Ambrose fought back again, and put Drew on a production box and rolls him into another. He hit the standing elbow drop for 2, and then they brawled up on sort of the stage where commentary is. Ambrose got a roll up, and then Drew took him down and then cleared off the announce table, only for Ambrose to suplex him onto it. Ambrose followed back, a low blow by Drew followed, and then he lawn darted Ambrose into the LED board. He did it again, but still could only get 2, and then they went back and forth with strikes, and then Drew sort of trapped him in the railing for the steps, and then just absolutely murdered him with the Claymore for the win. I thought this was a great main event, and some people have said that this is how they've wrote Dean Ambrose out of WWE storylines, essentially.
First off, it was a really, really good main event. I mean, these two are very good wrestlers, and Ambrose is fantastic at these kind of matches, just having a brawl, having a fight, and he's fantastic at that. In terms of the storyline aspect, I think you're certainly right. I think this is possibly quite a smart move on the part of WWE. This is possibly the way to write him out, because they can have this injury carry on way past WrestleMania, and then that be it. But if Ambrose does still decide to re-sign, and as far as we know he hasn't yet, and there's been no reports that he has, and Dave Meltzer has confirmed that he still has not re-signed. But if he does, I think they can be very smart and very easily segue this into a match between Ambrose and McIntyre, and then maybe move Roman into something, higher up and figure something out for Roman maybe. But I think this could be a very smart move from WWE.
So after the match, McIntyre hit the Claymore again, and that was it for the show. I thought there was another weird episode where we went sort of back and forth and up and down, and there were some bits which were really good. I loved Hunter and Batista. There were some bits which were really bad. Like, it was another mixed show.
Yeah, it was a classic Monday Night Raw, to be honest. I'm kind of expecting the same thing every single week now. I never used to watch every single week before we started this podcast, but now that I am 100% watching every single week, I expect the same thing. I expect some good, some bad, some average, and it's a shame really, because it never used to be this way. It used to be that on the whole, if it wasn't great, it was decent. There was never anything that sucked. Now there is stuff that sucks quite regularly, which is a shame.
So this week's episode of Monday Night Raw drew 2.81 million viewers, which was up 1.3% from last week's 2.78. It is the second best viewership for the show since September 3rd, just behind the 2.92 million viewers for Roman Reigns' return on February 25th. And the show really retained its viewership, which I think is a good thing. This is the first time I've looked at it and went, wow, they retained the viewers pretty well, because they drew 2.83 million viewers first hour. Second hour actually drew 2.86, which was up from the first hour. And then the third hour did drop a little bit, but only to 2.75. So really consistent throughout. And this is one of the best looking ratings in terms of that type of stuff I've seen from Raw for a while.
Well, to be honest, in terms of consistency, it wasn't like some Raws where it fell off a cliff.
No.
Like this Raw was pretty consistently okay. So I don't really blame people for hanging around. There were some Raws where I genuinely do blame people for hanging around. Like the one, was it 2 or 3 weeks ago, where we just felt like after about half an hour it just fell off a cliff.
Oh yeah, that was an awful show.
And we were genuinely astounded people stuck around for that one.
And with that, I think we'll move to WWE SmackDown Live. And we opened with Mr. Money himself, Shane McMahon.
Yeah, he wasn't skipping around anymore, was he?
No, he wasn't. He made the ring announcer announce him as best in the world, which I actually liked, and sort of threatened him to say it like you mean it.
CM Punk was angry somewhere.
He said he attacked Miz because he's sick of it, sick of having to help others get ahead. That all stopped on Sunday. He's the best in the world because he was born that way. I mean, can you get more douchey than that?
Eugenics much.
Yeah. Now he will start doing things for himself, and it really felt good when he beat Miz down in front of his father. He told us to get used to this, and he tells Miz that he demands a match at Mania so that he can continue beating him up.
This was fine, actually. I didn't expect, an all-time classic promo, but at the same time, Shane did exactly what he needed to do with it. Just convey how he's turned heel and what the reasons are. And you know what? I kind of get the reasoning for him turning heel, the sort of idea that, people come to me for handouts and for favours, and I'm sick of doing that. I'm a McMahon. I do what I want, and at the end of the day, you can like it or you can lump it, but I was born a McMahon and I'll stay a McMahon, and I quite like that.
I'm hardly excited for Shane versus Miz, but at least they're both in the same match together and they're only stinking up one match.
Hey.
What?
Don't be nasty towards the Miz. Hey.
Next.
We are massive fans of the Miz.
Yeah, I love Miz's character work, but in singles matches, unless he's in there with somebody really, really good...
Yeah, but if he's in...
pretty dull.
Yeah, okay.
And he's going to be in there with Shane. So if they're going to do this angle, at least they're together and it's only one match on a 24-hour-long show or whatever it's going to be this year.
Hey, it won't be that short.
Yeah. Next up, we had an 8-man tag match, which was Aleister Black, Ricochet and the Hardys versus Sheamus, Cesaro, Rusev and Nakamura. This was sort of set up from last week's angle where they all brawled. It was, this was fun. There was a lot going on, sort of Matt fighting sort of with Sheamus, and then we went back and forth, and they really worked this well with everybody getting a chance to work in. But what was important about this was what happened at the end, which was they went back and forth. Nobody had ever really got an advantage until Jeff hit a twist of fate and then hit a swanton, which was actually kicked out of, which is unusual.
Yeah.
And then who came down?
Don't you dare be sour.
So the New Day came down.
Just in case you didn't know, that was the New Day.
And just beat the hell out of everyone. And you know what? I was singing hallelujah praise the Lord, because they've needed a bit of edge given the way they've been treated over the past few weeks. They had to do something and just stop being, oh, shucks, Gotti, two shoes, baby faces.
Hey, weren't they over though?
Yeah, they were huge.
Yeah.
Most over thing on the show by a country mile.
Yeah.
And I thought this was really cool. I loved how they did this. I really did.
So did I. Gave New Day a real edge, and we did speculate earlier in the week that was coming, and it absolutely has. And I think it's a breath of fresh air. Not only will it help Kofi, but it will certainly help Big E and Xavier. And I'll be really surprised if Kofi's the breakout star from that group. I've always thought Big E had he gives me Rock vibes in terms of just he's like walking, talking charisma. But he's bigger than Rock. You know, I still get those vibes that he could be so much more than he currently is.
So next up, we had another awesome segment. Randy Orton came out, and I realise that's not something I always say, but he came out and he says he has no idea why this is AJ Styles' house. He was here in 2002 while AJ was working bingo halls for $10, and Orton was winning world titles. He basically said that AJ was down in Florida getting a tan with Dixie Carter, which I was actually mid-drink when I watched that, and I nearly spat my drink back out. It was very funny. And that's why this is the house that Orton built. AJ came out and said Orton followed his career closely for someone who hates the indies. Orton may be built for WWE, and I thought this was a really interesting line, but he would not have survived in AJ's world. Is that the first time anybody's ever referred to the independent scene in a way that promoted it as almost better in certain respects than WWE?
Not on TV. I've seen Daniel Bryan, particularly, they do the Day Of series and stuff like that. Like Bryan talked before Survivor, not before Survivor Series, before TLC. Sorry, about how he felt like the best he'd ever been was around 2006, obviously during his ROH title run. But no, they've never openly acknowledged it on TV.
So AJ basically calls out Orton for stealing DDP's finisher, and Orton then mocks all the indie guys, but AJ says Orton's surrounded by them now, and their dad didn't help them get a job. AJ says Orton's always had help, but Orton says he did more 24 than AJ ever will. AJ reminds him of Evolution, Legacy, Rated RKO, and the Wyatt family, and he says Orton uses everybody and then tosses them aside when he's done with them. AJ refuses to be a victim, and Orton says as long as AJ rents a room in his house, rent is due, and AJ can make it out to RKO. AJ challenges him for a match mania. This was a super good segment. Orton's hit and miss for me on the mic, but I thought he was great here. AJ's great when he's got somebody to bounce off like this and he can cut a real fired up babyface promo. Anything other than fired up babyface and smarmy heel AJ, he's not that great at, but those two things he's unbelievably good at, and he was on fire here, as was Orton. Great segment.
Yeah, I thought this was fantastic as well. I really do like Orton's almost... It feels like Baron Corbin's gimmick in NXT, and that he just hates all these newcomers and all of these NXT guys and these indie guys, and he's been here for years.
Where you from, Dragon Gate?
Yeah, I've been here ages. Like, you guys suck. Where are you from? And I think Orton fits that really well, and I think because Orton embodies this idea of what WWE used to be, and therefore I think he fits that really, really well. So AJ cut his promo really well as well, just added to the story, and I am genuinely really looking forward to this match at Mania. I think it could be really good.
Did you see, though, as much as we've just waxed lyrical about it, and rightfully so, and I am really looking forward to this match as well, do you see what Mark Henry said?
No, I missed it. Go on.
He thinks AJ versus Orton should close Mania.
The pre-show?
No.
I mean, don't get me wrong, that should not be on the pre-show, but there's no way on God's green earth that closes WrestleMania.
So next up, Asuka was on TV again.
What? She was there?
Yeah.
Did she lose again?
No, she was facing Sonya Deville, and Mandy was at ringside. There clearly was still dissension between Mandy and Sonya after what happened at Fastlane. This didn't go very long. They went back and forth, and then Asuka took out Mandy on the outside, and then Mandy accidentally tripped Sonya, and the Asuka look finished Sonya off. You know what? It lasted about 3 minutes. Asuka picked up the submission victory, and you sort of continued the budding resentment between Sonya and Mandy. It was fine.
It just doesn't help Asuka. I feel like Asuka's losing momentum week by week.
The problem is, who do you have a face at Mania?
Well, funnily enough, now that we talk about it, like I've seen some suggestions, not by any reputable sources or anything like that yet, but some suggestions that what they're going to do is they're going to do a triple threat of Asuka and Mandy and Sonya and like.
Can you think of anything better though?
No, but given some time, I can guarantee I could. Given some time, I can guarantee I could come up with something better than that. That would be a better match and would be something that would be deserving of Asuka. Like, really, if that's going to be the match, Asuka should kill them both in about 2 minutes. If that's what they do.
I think I like Sonya and Mandy a bit more than you do.
No, so do I, but I like Asuka a whole lot more.
So do I. I'm not putting them on her level at all.
That's what I mean. That's my point. Asuka needs to be elevated. She really does. She's losing momentum week by week.
The follow-up to her tapping Becky out's been really poor. So, next up, the Iconics challenged Sasha and Bayley to a tag title match.
More than fine. I like the Iconics.
Do you think this means they're going to be added in? It'll be kind of a four-way
I think we're
tag
getting,
title match at Mania.
I think we're getting what we talked about. I mean, it's a real shame. Like I really want Kyrie and Io to be in that match. They're not going to because that would be cool. But this will be fine. It'll probably be on the opening parts of the show.
I imagine it makes it to the main card this year because it's
prestige.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think it probably ends up being on the first hour or so. Like, it won't open the show. Maybe like they usually open with a really hot match now on WrestleMania, like a multi-man ladder match or something like that. But it'll be fine. It'll be serviceable, and hopefully the Boston connection retain.
So Becky was out next. Everyone got brave when she got hurt, suspended and arrested, but she's back now. She's back in the main event of Mania. She set this match in motion, which earned her way in twice, while Vince shoehorned Charlotte into the whole situation. She said she outsmarted Ronda here.
Yeah, because I made her attack me. Genius.
Just ridiculous. And Ronda did her bidding. I did like the line, what was it, something to do with...
It's difficult. Yeah, I played mind games with someone that doesn't have a brain.
Yeah. I thought that was really funny.
Yeah, like that was like what I'm noticing though lately in Becky's promos, that she's starting to say things that she would never have said before. Like they're overwriting what she's saying. Like, she'll say things and I'm just like, she would never have said that before.
So she says she's going to take Ronda's title and Ronda's arm, and she'll take what's hers. And then out came Charlotte and says, finally, Becky made it into her main event. She says she's been putting in all the work, but Lynch has been hot for 6 months. Charlotte's been hot for 4 years.
I like that line.
So did I. The fans feel sorry for Becky, like Charlotte and Ronda do. She says Becky got a handout, but still takes credit. Charlotte will make Becky and Ronda relevant. Becky says Charlotte did nothing for 4 years. We don't need a queen. We need the man. You know what? I still hate the fact that Charlotte's in this match, but this was fine.
The main thing I'll say is what I said to you earlier on, because we watched this promo for a little bit. I think this is fine. The problem is that I feel like this storyline's absolutely on a knife edge right now. It's either going to be dreadful or it's going to be amazing. And Becky's character is right on that knife edge, in that she could still very much be what she has been in the last 6 months or so. Or it's going to get to the point where it's going to probably main event still, but it won't deserve to. And it really, really should. It's the biggest storyline. I mean, one thing I did see, and we didn't report it last week, but WWE.com ran a poll of should Charlotte have been included in the match. 70% of people that voted in that voted for it just to be Becky versus Ronda. That shows what people wanted, and they haven't gone with it. And it's this whole storyline's very close to jumping the shark.
So we then saw Daniel Bryan backstage. Kayla tried to interview him and ask him what he'd been talking with Vince about. At first he didn't want to talk about it, but then he said that him and Rowan would be facing Owens and Ali tonight. And then next up we had a tag match between Rey and R-Truth and Samoa Joe and Andrade. This was, these four, when you put them together, they've just got great chemistry.
Good things are going to
happen. It was really good again. Selena Vega tried to get involved again, and then Carmella stopped her. He did. Truth then tagged in, and he did the Cena tribute moves, but then Joe saved Andrade. Truth cut him off, but then he hit a super kick. Rey tagged himself in and hit a missile dropkick. The 619 to both opponents connected, and Rey then cradled Joe, interestingly, and picked up the win. This was fine. I just feel like Joe kind of needs to move on now, and I didn't like the fact that Rey beat him. It's Rey Mysterio. You should never be upset at dropping a pinfall to Rey Mysterio. But they've done such good work with Joe over the past 2 or 3 weeks, and I felt like this was kind of a step in the wrong direction.
I think it's one of those things where it's almost like they don't have that much for him, so they're sticking with what's currently there. Hopefully after Mania they will have something for him, but I won't be shocked if we get a multi-man at Mania involving Joe.
Joe got his heat back by laying out R-Truth and Andrade after the match. Poor Andrade. And then we had Kevin Owens and Mustafa Ali versus Daniel Bryan and Rowan in our sort of main event match of the evening. They went back and forth early on, and then later on Bryan worked over Ali with suplexes after suplexes and then covered for a 2. After we came back from commercial break, it was Rowan working over Ali, and then he tagged Bryan back in, and Bryan worked over again. He hit a super butterfly suplex for 2, which was lovely, and then locked on the label lock, but Ali got the ropes. Bryan absolutely chopped the ever-loving hell out of Ali's chest, but Ali managed to get through and look for the tag. He hit the backstabber, but Rowan made the save, and then finally Owens came in. They built up the hot tag really well, I thought, in this match. He hit a super kick on Rowan, and then they brawled to the floor. Ali fought off Bryan, but Rowan cut him off and hit the Iron Claw slam for the win. I didn't like Rowan beating Ali, I really didn't. I thought this was a fine chance to beat Rowan, to proxy beat Bryan, if you know what I mean.
Yep, totally
but
agree.
They seem more concerned with protecting Rowan than Bryan, which we said last week, and I just don't get it.
Yeah, like we've said, Ali is a main event level guy in about a year's time. His gimmick, his character, where he's from, they can build all of that, and his
he's got heritage. A really rich backstory as well, with being a cop in Chicago and all that you can build in the story.
Like, come on, that screams out main event guy, and his promo skills and his ability in the ring. Like, they should be protecting him right now, and Rowan has no need to beat him.
And then our final segment on SmackDown was Vince. He had a sort of WrestleMania opportunity for Kofi. Yeah. So Vince said Kofi was never in the WWE Fastlane match, and Kofi was providing Kofi with a teachable moment. New Day came out, and Big E said they aren't in the mood for lessons. Big E's promo here, unbelievable. I mean, all three, because Big E cut a great promo, followed by Xavier cutting a great promo, and then Kofi cut a great promo.
Big E Langston might be one of the greatest underrated promos of all time. Have you ever seen him cut one that's awful?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, like generally, we don't talk about it, but Big E's amazing on the mic.
He basically said that Kofi deserved better and more. Vince disagreed and basically said no one deserved anything, including Vince. But Big E says this is bigger than Vince's ego. And then Vince made a comedy line, which I didn't really like, about this clearly not being true because nothing's bigger than his ego. And I thought it just took away from what they were doing in this segment.
Yep.
And then Xavier said they'd earned their chances. Kofi has beat WWE champions, but he never got his shot. And now the fans are demanding that Kofi gets his chance. Vince says simply that Kofi isn't worthy of a WWE championship match. And if he was, it would have happened a long time ago. I hate that line as well. Yeah. Vince says he'll be in the Hall of Fame one day, but as part of the New Day.
Way to bury every single guy that's got in as member of a group, by the way.
Yeah. And he said that basically Xavier and Big E do all the work for Kofi in the group. And the one line I really did love in this promo, though, was that Vince said he was talking to somebody earlier tonight, Daniel Bryan, and then Daniel Bryan had said that he's a good B-plus player.
Where have you heard that before?
Because Bryan's properly sold out now.
Oh, he's an absolute coward.
Yeah. So Kofi said he doesn't want a free ride. 11 years ago, he came to WWE with a dream, and now he lives his dream every week. And he thinks he's proven he's worthy. He doesn't complain, and he doesn't care when anybody gets opportunities first. He misses sort of his kids' birthdays, or he's never seen them trick-or-treating. He's missed all these things for WWE. But you have never allowed someone like me to compete for a WWE title, which was a touchy line, yeah. And he just asked, what do I need to do to get it? And then Randy Orton came out, and Vince said Kofi has to beat him. And then Joe came out, and Vince says he has to beat him as well.
I love the idea that they're all lined up backstage, by the way, waiting.
Yeah. Bryan, Rowan and the Bar then arrive, and Vince says if Kofi can run the gauntlet next week, he's in. They all sort of rush towards the ring, and New Day fought them off to stand tall. This was an overall good segment with some ropey moments in there. Vince still can play a horrible human being really well, and I thought the New Day all delivered big time with their promos here.
I feel like there was a lot of things where Vince buried Kofi, and there were some lines that I didn't like, but I thought Kofi's promo was fantastic. And I think what we're going to probably see next week is we're going to see Kofi have the performance of a lifetime. and then we're probably going to see him get screwed at like the last stage or something like that. I think there'll be something where Kofi just doesn't get it, and that'll make everybody want it more. So we'll see what happens next week. I'm looking forward to it very, very much.
I thought overall this was a really good show.
Yeah. Again, hashtag watch SmackDown. SmackDown is a good show.
Speaking of watching SmackDown, SmackDown drew 2.19 million viewers this week, which was slightly up from 2.15 million last week. Not a great deal else to say. The numbers still not great, but they are better than they have been.
Yeah, hopefully when they go on Fox, people will just actually start tuning in more because it's Fox. Because people have got to realise how much better it is than Raw. Like, it's consistently better.
So, moving on to WWE NXT, we had the Forgotten Sons versus Mustache Mountain in a Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic match. This was probably the best Forgotten Sons match I've seen. It didn't go massively long, but Mustache Mountain are great. They worked back and forth match early on, and then Bate eventually tagged in and ran wild. He hit the airplane spin on both Forgotten Sons.
Big strong boy.
Tyler Bate is a big strong boy. The double Rana then connected, and then both headed to the floor, and Bate hit an exploder, sending sort of one Forgotten Son into the other. Bate hit the spiral tap, but Cutler made the save. And then Seven tagged in. The Lariat and Dragon Suplex combo followed for 2, and then Jackson Ryder got involved at ringside. Bate followed with a Torpe. Bate gets tossed and levelled by Riker, and then the Forgotten Sons hit the stomp/reverse DDT, Scorpion Death Drop thing that they do for the win. I didn't like Mustache Mountain losing, but this was fine.
No, I don't like them losing either. I mean, this is fine. I mean, Forgotten Sons are clearly being pushed, but like Mustache Mountain are very much the better team, but they're a big part of NXT UK. I really do think that they should be on the main roster pretty soon. Like, they're good enough to be a tag team on the main roster, but we'll see how things go. But like, I was okay with this because I can clearly see they're pushing Forgotten Sons.
We then went to Matt Riddle, who did Matt Riddle things and talked about confronting Velveteen Dream last week. Adam Cole then turned up and said that Riddle was delusional, as Adam Cole will be the next champion, baby. And Riddle challenged him to a match. Perfectly fine setup.
Yep, the classic booking, more than fine. Let's move on.
So we then had Io Shirai versus Bianca Belair. This was a de facto number 1 contenders match, and Baszler joined commentary. Belair sort of shoved Shirai, and they locked up and worked into counters. They went back and forth for a long time in this match. I like these two, but I didn't feel like they clicked very well here.
No.
Yeah. Shirai hit a 619 and then went up top and springboarded in with the missile dropkick, and then she hit double knees, but Belair sort of cut off the moonsault attempt and hair whips her. Belair then went up top, but this time Shirai cut her off and hit the Rana. Shirai went up top again, and this time when she went for the moonsault, she hit the knees. Belair hit a spear, but then Baszler came down the ring and pulled Io out the ring for the DQ. She then choked out Bianca, but then Kairi tipped up until she got choked out as well, and then Io finally made the save, but then she got choked out as well. They made Baszler look really good here and set up what I assume is going to be a fatal 4-way takeover.
Yeah, this was fine. I think, it's very clearly building up the 4-way. It worked in storyline, and I had no problem with it, so that could be a really good match as well. We've never seen Baszler have that kind of multi-man either, so it'll be very interesting to see how she copes in that scenario. She's always had one-on-ones as far as I'm aware, so that'll be very interesting to see how she copes in that scenario. So really looking forward to this. Like, it should be a really great match.
So Shayna then talked about her attack. She proved that nobody deserves a shot at her at TakeOver. And then she was informed that the TakeOver match will now be a fatal 4-way. So we're all set up for that.
There we go.
And then we got to our main event. And what a main event this was. The semi-finals of the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic. Aleister Black and Ricochet versus DIY. There was so much that happened in this match that I can't even begin to try and cover it. It went only about 15 minutes, I think.
Is that it?
But what a 15 minutes it was. It was just brilliant from start to finish. I'll just start from the point where Ciampa hit the Tower of London on the apron, because I've got to mention that Ciampa hit the Tower of London. And Nigel didn't react that much this time, which was a bit disappointing. But then Gargano hit the slingshot DDT for 2. He then locked in the Gargano escape, and Ciampa flipped into the flipping armbar thing he does on Ricochet. But then Ricochet powered out and hit a Death Valley driver onto Gargano to save Aleister Black. Gargano is then favouring his knee, and Ciampa has to go it alone for a while, trading strikes with Ricochet. Knee strike by Ciampa, but then Ricochet countered back with a kick. Gargano was struggling to get to the apron and then fell back down. Black got in the ring, hit Black Mass, and Ricochet hit the 630 and won. Great match, but you know when you just feel like something's
about to happen.
Something was just a bit weird about how Gargano's knee was all of a sudden injured.
Wasn't that convenient?
It was very convenient.
What happened next, Adam?
Well, what happened next was our segment of the week, Jonathan.
Oh, 100% our segment of the week. We've been waiting for this for weeks and weeks and weeks since we saw the spoilers.
Yeah.
Oh, we've been waiting for this, and it more than lived up to what we expected.
So, DIY are all disappointed after the match, and then Candice came out to check on Johnny. Ciampa eventually joined them at the top of the ramp, and he was checking on Gargano as well, and then he eventually helped him up. But just as they were walking forward, all of a sudden, Ciampa clutched the back of Johnny's head and it looked like he was about to launch him into the LED boards. Not this time.
Nope.
Not this time.
Johnny was ready. Babyface.
He stopped him and he threw Ciampa head first into the LED boards. And he said something to the effect of, "I've been waiting for this," or something. I can't remember the exact phrasing, but it was like this was a plan all along. And commentary, to be fair to them, really put it over here as well.
And you remember as well, a couple of weeks ago, Candice said, like, "I hope you know what you're doing."
Yeah, she did. And then with Ciampa on his knees, Johnny shouts DIY and super kicks him in the face. Oh. Candice smiles. This was awesome.
Segment of the week by a country mile. It was the culmination of the storyline that we've been waiting for ages. Obviously, unfortunately, I think, other things are going to very much get in the way, and that's very, very sad. But if this is the end of the storyline, it was still amazing. It was great storytelling. There was some great facial expressions throughout as well. That moment where you could see that Ciampa was about to turn, his face suddenly changed as he looked at Johnny. He was sick of Johnny. Johnny had, in Ciampa's mind, outlasted his usefulness. And it was great. And it was just this moment of like the smart babyface finally overcoming his foe. And it was everything that we've been waiting for months and months and months. And what was interesting as well was Gargano, after he super kicked him and said DIY, he then shouted Johnny Wrestling's back. And it was clear that Gargano had become Gargano Johnny Wrestling again. And the crowd immediately super loud started chanting Johnny Wrestling. And it was just this flick of a switch that Johnny Wrestling was back. And it was this whole storyline had come full circle. It was like as close to perfection as wrestling gets. It really was.
Just a shame we're not going to see the payoff.
I know.
But a really good episode of NXT this week, as it always is. Super fun.
Yep, as always.
And next up we move on to 205 Live. We got a Buddy Murphy video from Australia where he congratulated the semi-finalists because they are 2 matches from facing the greatest champion. I like Buddy Murphy.
Yeah, he's great.
Kind of implied that he wouldn't be surprised if Cedric Alexander wins this tournament, which was kind of interesting.
Yeah, I think Cedric's the favourite, but I don't think he's winning.
So next up we had Cedric versus Oney Lorcan in the semi-final. Lorcan works really well with Cedric, I noticed in this match, and I know it's not a surprise to see 2 good workers work really well, but when you just notice something clicks.
Yeah.
And I thought they were really good together here. Far too much to cover in a short report, but Lorcan hit a lovely blockbuster for 2 at one point, and that was when the match really started to get good. He went for the half and half suplex, but Alexander counted out of it. They sort of fought outside the ring, and Cedric speared him into the apron. And then back in, Alexander hit the Michinoku driver for 2. Alexander stomped the living daylights out of Lorcan. Very aggressive for Alexander. And then he fired up and headed up to the ropes, but the springboard was cut off with an uppercut, and then they worked up top and only hit a super half and half suplex for an unbelievable near fall. He looked to follow up, and they sort of fired up and traded slaps with each other, and Alexander pulled him back in and hit the lumbar check for the win. Just 15 minutes of great stuff. And I've seen some people say that they didn't like the finish, but I really enjoyed this match.
No, I thought the finish was fine. I really enjoyed this match. I thought, like we said, 2 great workers having a great match, but they clearly had something together. I think Oney I love him in NXT, and I love him with his tag team with Birch, but I think he deserves more. I think he could be more, and I wouldn't mind seeing him as in 205 Live more consistently, if not all the time, but certainly more. And I think this was the right booking decision, and we'll see where we go with it.
So next up, Mike and Maria were backstage with Drake. Mike basically said he's been doing this for half of his life, and Drake is just not listening to him.
And he's still not very good.
He said he'd paid his dues and claimed he has earned the respect of everyone he's ever stepped into a ring with. But Drake said that 205 Live is no place for losers, and that Mike has to prove himself next week against one of the top cruiserweights in the world, because this may be his last chance.
Ooh, who's he getting? That could be very interesting.
And then we got a promo from Arya Daivari. He basically said that the leash is coming off and you're going to see what a year's worth of frustration really looks like. It was fine.
Yeah, more than fine. I just hope he changes his look, because it still sucks.
And then we got our main event, which was Tony Nese versus Drew Gulak. Now, I know both of these guys are very... How do I put this?
Technical?
More that you've got to really like their style to really get them.
Yeah, they're an acquired taste.
That's exactly the words I was looking for.
And I've acquired the taste of both of them.
So have I. And I thought this was fantastic. So they worked a very grounded style for quite a long period of this match, with Nese obviously working the more high-flying style and Gulak being the more technical, proficient performer in this sort of particular match. And eventually Nese followed up a big move of strikes with some kicks and then stunned Gulak off the ropes and hit a split-legged moonsault for 2. And then Drew eventually fought back and went for the Gulak, but Nese countered out of it, and then Gulak hit a pair of powerbombs for 2. Gulak got really frustrated, and then Nese battled back and took Gulak up top and hit the Rana, but then he missed the 450. They worked back and forth, and then Gulak got the sunset flip for 2. Nese fought out of the Gulak again and made the ropes, and then Nese Germaned him into the buckles and went for the running Nese, but he missed. An absolutely massive lariat by Gulak followed, and then the Gulak was locked on, but Nese fought and rolled, but Gulak still hung on, and then Nese finally made it the ropes and then rolled back and pins Gulak as Gulak wouldn't let go of the Gulak. 18 or 20 minutes, whatever it was, of absolutely fantastic stuff. I loved this main event, and both were great. And you know what? Commentary actually did a really good job during this match, and I was really pleased with everything that happened here.
Are you still fully on board with Nese?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, I've liked him for a long time, and I really, really, really like him now. He's well on the way, I think, to what I hope is a WrestleMania match for the Cruiserweight title, which could be very, very good. This was a very good match between two excellent scientific and technical wrestlers. What did we expect? And I'm very much looking forward to him versus Cedric. That could be very good. They've had good matches in the past, and let's see what they do next time they face off with pretty much, it all on the line.
And I thought this was another good episode of 205 Live, as we get every week. 2 really good matches. Super fun.
Yeah, as always, a really good episode of 205 Live. If you have to watch 1 hour of wrestling per week and it can't be NXT, it'd have to be 205 Live, wouldn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And with that, I think we'll move on to any other business.
Yeah.
And we will start with the New Japan Cup, just to update you where we are. We've had some second round matches. Yoshihashi defeated Chase Owens, and Tomohiro Ishii defeated Taichi. And then Will Ospreay defeated Lance Archer, and Kazuchika Okada defeated Mikey Nichols. And finally, the sort of show from today, Hiroshi Tanahashi defeated Ryusuke Taguchi in what I've heard was not a very good match.
That's strange, mind. They both can go. I mean, Taguchi's not what he once was, but he still can go. He still can wrestle. I wonder if they've just gone too heavy on the comedy aspect of it. I wonder.
And then the most surprising result of the tournament so far, when Zack Sabre Jr. defeated Kota Ibushi, which really surprised me.
No, I hadn't seen that.
I thought Ibushi was going to the finals, I really did.
I think Sabre's going to the finals then.
Yeah. Well, he won last year, so it does kind of make sense in New Japan booking for him to, the winner of last year's New Japan Cup, to go to the finals and lose to whoever's winning it this year.
That is massive, although I do very much feel robbed of Ibushi versus Okada in the final. That's a real shame, but really cool for Sabre, and Sabre and Okada had a great match last year too.
And then last night was Ring of Honor's 17th anniversary show, so interesting what happened last night in certain respects. I'll just run through the results and we'll talk a little bit more detail at a later date when I've watched the show, because I haven't yet.
Yeah, I haven't seen it either.
Marty Scurll defeated Kenny King in the opener. Jeff Cobb defeated Shane Taylor in the World Television title match, which I heard was a really, really good match. And then Mayu Iwatani defeated Kelly Klein in the rematch for the Women of Honor World title match. And then Jay Lethal and Matt Taven went to a 60-minute time limit draw.
They went Broadway.
Yeah, which is interesting.
Yeah, in 2019, and I'll wait and see what it's like, but interesting.
Yeah. And then Rush defeated Bandido, and the main event was Villain Enterprises, Brody King and PCO winning the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Championships from the Briscoes in a no disqualification match.
Yeah, and that obviously changes, the things for the Ring of Honor and New Japan show. So let's see, that'll be an interesting dynamic and an interesting change that they've made. Because when it was the Briscoes, I was a little bit more convinced in terms of the Briscoes maybe winning New Japan Gold, because they have reputation and history in Japan with Noah. And I believe with New Japan, they've been champions before.
They were, yeah.
Yeah,
a couple of years ago.
That was more believable to me. With Villain Enterprises, I'm a little bit not as convinced, I must be honest.
Yeah, I don't see PCO going over and working a Dome show anytime soon.
Do you really want to see the Gorillas of Destiny as Ring of Honor World Tag Team Champions?
I certainly do not.
I didn't think so.
No. So we'll just run through the card actually for G1 Supercard as it stands right now, because obviously a lot has changed. Jay White will be defending his IWGP Heavyweight Championship in the main event against the winner of the New Japan Cup, which I do imagine will be Kazuchika Okada.
That's the logical bet.
Jay Lethal will be defending the Ring of Honor World Championship against Marty Scurll. As it stands, I wonder if after the 60-minute time limit draw, they'll add Taven in and make it a three-way. I'm not sure.
Do you think Scurll wins?
I think it's time.
Yeah, so do I.
We've got a street fight with Bully Ray against what I assume is going to be Flip Gordon, because Flip's obviously been out and he's making his big return. So I assume they're just going to do very similar to what they did at Final Battle and try and get Flip restarted again.
That'd be awesome. It was a great match, Final Battle.
We've got a three-way dance for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title as Taiji Ishimori defends against Bandido and Dragon Lee. And then a match between the World Television Champion and the Never Openweight Champion, Jeff Cobb versus Will Ospreay. Don't know whether that's title for title as well.
If it's champion for champion, that'll be a very interesting booking decision, because New Japan do not like their champions to lose, and I have a feeling that Ring of Honor will end up kowtowing in that scenario.
And then, obviously, as we mentioned, the Gorillas of Destiny versus Villain Enterprises, and we've also got Dalton Castle versus Rush. So that is your card for Madison Square Garden.
Interesting card so far.
Mm-hmm. And with that, we will move on to our final segment for this week. And today's date is the 16th of March.
3/16.
It's 3/16 day.
It's Stone Cold Steve Austin Day.
Unbelievable. I didn't realise that until you told me earlier today.
I
can't believe I'd missed it.
I only saw it because I saw it, I'd seen on Twitter.
So what we've decided to do is we're going to talk about our favourite Stone Cold Steve Austin moments of all time.
This should only take us for the next hour or so.
Yes. So I'm going to kick it off. And I'm going to go with what I still believe to this day is the biggest pop I've ever heard. Backlash 2000, Triple H, The Stooges, Vince McMahon, everybody and the dog is out there beating down The Rock. And Triple H is just about to beat him. And they've built up all night that Austin was going to be in Rock's corner. And all of a sudden the glass shatters and the place goes berserk. He comes down, he hits everybody with a chair, he just destroys everyone. Some headshotty chair shots in there as well, but we won't talk about that.
Anyway, moving on. Yeah.
And The Rock eventually picks up the victory after the People's Elbow. And Earl Hebner comes in with the worst 3 count you'll ever see in your entire life, but that's Earl Hebner. Amazing moment though, absolutely love it. Before
we talk about there's promos and stuff that I've got in my mind, but if we're on this topic of returns-ish, I'll talk about the return during the Alliance angle, during Raw.
Oh, is it the old Stone Cold? Oh, he's walking.
Yeah,
he's talking.
Exactly. The whole idea was that Austin was no longer the old Austin, and Vince needed the old Stone Cold back, and he came out to save the WWF.
And then turned on them 6 days later.
Don't ignore that, okay? This moment was amazing, and the crowd, this is probably Austin's second biggest pop of all time.
Possibly, yeah.
It's certainly up there. It's not as big as Backlash, but
No.
it's probably the second biggest pop of all time that Austin got. And it's huge, and it's awesome, and Austin pretty much stuns and just kills the entirety of the WCW roster.
Which may not have been the best thing to do, but whatever.
No. But it's Austin, so it was awesome.
I think I'll go with the one a little bit earlier, which will be Austin and Tyson getting into it before WrestleMania 14.
Awesome.
Such a cool moment, and the visual of Austin and Tyson getting each other's faces and Vince losing his mind in the background and JR going, Austin and Tyson, Austin and Tyson.
You forget
awesome.
like how much that did for Austin, because Tyson was the baddest man on the planet.
Yeah, he was
And the fact
legit
that-
one of the biggest superstars in the world
and
at
the
that
fact
point.
that Austin would just get in his face, just showed to viewers how much of a badass and how much of a just bad dude Stone Cold Steve Austin was. Right, let me go next. I'll go with the obvious one. I'll go with the 316 promo.
King of the Ring 96.
Exactly, yeah. This is the obvious one. I'm just getting in there before you say it. This pretty much, like, the character was already getting going, but this really kickstarted it. You know, Austin 316 should have just whipped your ass. Like, you know, the Austin 316 that would just go on to be the biggest thing, and, you know, there'd be signs all over. The guys who were in creative at the time always talk about how literally the next night, Austin 316 signs were all over the arena, and by that time, like, they knew they had something, and they ran with it, and Austin became the megastar of the generation. Just an amazing promo, and we have Jake the Snake to thank for that, for being there.
Okay, let's go two more. And I'm going to go for a really weird one that you'd probably not ever hear for any other wrestler or anything else ever like this when you're talking favourite moments. But one of my genuine favourite Stone Cold Steve Austin moments was the video package at WrestleMania 17 with him and The Rock.
My way.
By Limp Bizkit of all people.
Yeah.
It is just, it's an absolute masterpiece because I love Austin, I love The Rock, I love that period of time. That feud was not great going into Mania 17.
Didn't matter, it was Austin and Rock. It did
didn't
not matter.
It didn't, but if you look at that video package, it looks like one of the coolest feuds you've ever seen. And it's an awesome video package.
They've always had that ability, though, to do great promo
not
packages.
to that
Oh,
level.
no, never as good as that.
That's top tier.
Okay, yeah, I totally agree with that. I love that as well. Right, let me go with... I'll go with Austin against Brett from Survivor Series. All right, I'm going to let you.
Series 96.
I'm going to let you, because I've just thought you're gonna say Mania, so I'm going to let, because that's your match. I'm going to let you have that. But from Survivor Series 96, it's arguably a better technical match than the WrestleMania match, and it was very much starting to show how over Austin was. That obviously it was MSG, so that there's a difference there. But Austin was much more over than Brett. Brett was returning, and Austin was the heel, and yet Austin was just as over, if not more, than Brett. And it's a great match, great technical match. We've watched it together, and I love it. Love it.
Absolutely agree, and you were absolutely correct. My final one was going to be the moment that made me a fan of Stone Cold Steve Austin, the moment that made me a fan of wrestling in general, and that would be Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Bret Hart at WrestleMania 13. Just amazing match, and the visual of Austin passing out with blood streaming down his face in the sharpshooter. Just an amazing visual, amazing match, great storytelling, and it set Austin on the way to becoming one of the biggest babyfaces of all time.
It made a megastar. Like, he was already over, but that put him over the top. Right, I'm going to go with one that's probably more of a sentimental moment. For me, it's a very underrated match. It really is. I think it's a fantastic match, but what's amazing, before I say what I'm going to say, is when I was thinking before I actually said this, like, there's at least 5 others I could have said. Like, this, that's how awesome Stone Cold Steve Austin was. Right, I'm going to go with Austin against Rock from WrestleMania 19.
Arguably the best match they ever had against each
Yeah,
other.
it's the best of the trilogy that they had at WrestleMania. It was built around, you know, heel Hollywood Rock and just Austin just being Austin. And it was a great match. I think it's their best match that they actually had. I don't think Austin was a big fan of it, but it was a really good match. I've heard Austin say that he didn't like it.
When you consider he checked himself out of the hospital like mere hours before the match.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
But it was Austin. It was one of Austin's last matches. I think he only faced, Bischoff?
It was his last proper match. Like,
Bischoff was before this, wasn't it?
Yeah, like
was this Austin's last match?
I think Austin, at the very least, if it wasn't Austin's last match, Austin pretty much considered this his last proper match.
Yeah.
So, I don't know when the Bischoff thing was. It was No Way Out, but I don't know whether it was this year or the year after.
No, I believe it was the year. It was this year.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a great match. It is unbelievable, and I know for a fact from seeing the documentaries that were shot at the time, and from hearing interviews from Austin, it meant an awful lot to him that Rock did that match with him. And I remember Austin saying that he was more than happy to do the job for Rock, more than happy to do the job for him, and it's an amazing match. Go out your way to see it if you haven't seen it.
So that'll do us for this week's episode of the Two Man Booth. We will be back obviously next Friday, unless you have anything you'd like to add, Jonathan, before we go.
No, we're well on the way to WrestleMania now, though, so I'm getting very, very excited. We'll see where
We're out of time. We'll see you next week on the Two Man Booth.